So I know I called today's talk Family of Origin, the Good and the Bad and the Ugly, but I could have easily called it Setting Ourselves Free. Because it is the chains that bind us when we don't heal the wounds of our families. And holidays bring up all kinds of painful stuff this time of year. This is a hard time of year for lots and lots of folks. So it's a good time to visit this particular topic and to look at it for ourselves. And so I want to start out with some quotes I found that I thought were relevant. The first, which is of course my favorite, if you want to know how enlightened you are, visit your family of origin. You've all heard that one. George Bernard Shaw tells us if you cannot get rid of the family skeleton, you may as well make it dance. Cary Grant said, insanity runs in my family. It practically gallops. Jerry Seinfeld weighs in with, there is no such thing as fun for the whole family. Marguerite Duras tells us, our mothers remain the strangest and craziest people we've ever met. And Mother Teresa weighs in, the way you help heal the world is you start with your own family. And I will add to that, the way you help heal yourself is you start with your own family. So let me tell you a little about mine. Some of this you already know. Some of this will be a repeat, but it plays into all this. I was beaten a lot as a child. But of course, back then, corporal punishment was fairly common, so lots of kids got beat. Didn't make it less abusive, but it was common. My dad did most of the beatings. My mom was simply crazy. She couldn't keep her agreement. She rarely did what she said she was going to do. She was off, always doing something else. And it led to a point where after my mom and dad got divorced, things got so crazy around the house that there's this particular day I remember where there was no food in the house. And in one hand, I'm holding an eviction notice. And in the other hand, I'm holding a postcard from my mother from the Caribbean saying what a wonderful time she is having. Just to give you a little scoop, little, image on what my childhood was like. Now, I separated from both of them. I left home I was kicked out at 16, and by 17 decided I was never coming back, and I didn't. Went off on my own, did my own life. When I was in my late 20s, my dad started reaching out to me. He wanted to reconnect, and for a long time, I would not speak to him. But he kept at it, and he was very persistent, and he really wanted to make amends. So I said, okay, this is what I need you to do. I need you to sit there and let me tell you every way in which you wounded me as a child. And so in my late 20s, my dad actually did that. He sat there while I blasted him for over 2 hours with those things in my childhood where I felt wounded by him. He listened to it all without defending himself once, and at the end asked my forgiveness. Now that is not what mostly happens with most people. I was very blessed and lucky to have had a dad who somehow turned his own life around late in life to where he wanted to make amends. My mom was never good at making amends. In fact, she has pretty much lived in denial her entire life about what went on back then. And so healing with her was more difficult. For decades, our average conversation was under 5 minutes. Our time together was very well spaced, maybe once or twice a year sometimes. And in that same period of the time, I was divorced 3 times. And for a long time, until the 3rd divorce, really didn't put together that my upset with my mother played into what my personal relationships were like. After the 3rd divorce, I got myself a cabin in the woods, which I wound up living in for about 2 years. I had entered ministerial school, was taking classes, and came upon this one class where the teacher talked about what's called a numinous experience. A numinous experience is an experience that is earth-shattering. It may, at the moment it happens, feel good or bad, but always leads to healing. And so the 2 pieces in what makes an earth-shattering experience earth-shattering is that it is the 2 things that make a numinous experience numinous is that, number 1, it's earth-shattering, and secondly, it leads to healing, no matter how it feels at the moment. And so I'm taking a walk one day in the woods, thinking about my mother. And for not the first time, I have thought of this many times, that my mom was simply crazy, that it wasn't personal. But something happened this time that cracked open my heart as I was thinking about this, where I received in a way I had never received before, that it really was true. My mom was simply crazy. It was never personal. That she wasn't able to be there. She did the best she could. And it cracked me open in a way in which I cried for upwards of 25, 30 minutes. And that was a healing, and what made that event so a numinous event was, at the time, it was earth-shaking in how it cracked me open. But since then, my relationship with my mother has been extraordinary. We talk on the phone now on average 15 to 30 minutes. I get together with her way more often. And we enjoy each other's company tremendously. And so because of that experience, I know that we can heal things with people without them changing at all. That is within ourselves to do that healing work. But when we stay distant, angry, upset with these people who were the people of our family of origin, it is definitely affecting our daily lives in ways that we are unconscious of. It took 3 divorces for me to finally get that I needed to heal this thing around my mother without her changing at all, because she's still crazy at 80. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a runny nose. So the thing about family, and the thing that Dolly Parton spoke about in her song, is this is about forgiveness, acceptance, love, and then freedom. That when we are willing to forgive, truly forgive, all the trespasses that occurred in our family of origin, when we are willing to accept that they did the best they could, whatever it was, and however harmful it was, when we are able to love them anyway, we are free. And so, another way I recognize the healing from that numinous experience is in the relationship I have with Ashley now. where the other three relationships that ended in divorce all hit a wall in which the relationship no longer evolved, no longer grew. That is a feeling I experience all the time with Ashley, of growth, of evolution. That was not possible before I healed what I needed to around my mother. My relationship with men shifted after I healed my relationship with my dad. And so we have these two ways that can happen. One is where that person or parent is actually present and with you in the healing. But the other is where you just do it for yourself. And for most of us, that's how it's going to have to be. Because the parent is either gone or unwilling to do that healing with you. But we have the ability to do that for ourselves. So I was looking for a quote about this, and I found one in my own book that I wrote. So I'm about to quote myself. Most of the limitations we set are unconscious, based on experiences long forgotten. Race consciousness as close as our family, or as far afield as generalities set by humanity over the centuries. Wherever our limitations come from, it is up to us to break the bonds of them and set ourselves free. It is up to us to break the bonds and set ourselves free. We were born into the family we were born into. When we are able to forgive, accept, and then love whatever those trespasses were and whoever those people were, we find ourselves, instead of being stuck in the ugly and the bad, remembering the good, however little it was, and allowing that to feed our present. So something that has wounded us, that has taken away from who we are presently, can actually be turned around into something that feeds us when we are willing to forgive, accept, and love. And through that healing process, we are set free. The way you help heal the world is you start with your own family. The way you help heal yourself is you start with your own family. Wherever our limitations come from, it is up to us to break the bonds of them and set ourselves free. It is through being willing to take a look and be with that family, however painful it may feel. Find a way to forgive it. Find a way to accept it. Find a way to love it. None of this is easy when there's major trauma that went on. I'm just saying, easy or not, it's vital to our own health, growth, and freedom. Set yourself free through forgiveness, acceptance, and love. Let's do a guided meditation on this. Sit back, take a deep breath, and relax. And as we do here, find yourself on a path. It is the perfect path. It is your path. And let that path take you to your sanctuary. That perfect sanctuary that is yours. There is a chair there. It is the perfect chair. And when you sit in it, feel the of sitting in a chair that feels this comfortable and relaxing. And now, from this place of safety and relaxation, see standing before you your family of origin. Whatever the relationship, good, bad, or ugly, let them stand before you. And breathe in your own safety. Breathe in your own sense of worth, of love. And from this container of love, breathe out forgiveness. Tell each one of them that you forgive them. Tell each one of them that you accept them. From this container of love of yourself, tell each one of them that you love them. Now, no matter how you were treated as a child, imagine them loving you back. And now, imagine yourself holding a knife, a big knife. And imagine yourself cutting any strings, cutting any chains, cutting any bonds that are holding you down between your family and you. Cut every one of those strings, every one of those chains. Cut yourself free. Breathe in love. Breathe out forgiveness. Breathe in love. Breathe out forgiveness. And from this place, thank yourself for this experience of forgiveness, acceptance, love, and freedom. And when you are ready, open your eyes.